my nanny at that time would sit with me and tell me, if you don't finish this vegetable, it'll cry. Look at these grains of rice. If you don't eat them, they'll be very sad. I did a video on how to cope with the dark night of the soul. I just want to clarify that we mustn't get too caught up with that term, because anyone who is going through a really excruciating time of pain and reflection and of the feeling that the whole universe is against you, that everyone is against you, that's a good enough sign to take as an awakening process, like the beginning of an awakening process. But for now, just let's call it the dark night of the soul, yeah, for communication purposes. This came to me many times in varying degrees, but because I kept ignoring it, ignoring the call of the universe to awaken, it just prolonged my pain and my suffering. But it didn't stop pestering me. Every few years, something would happen to make me self-reflect. Something would happen to make me think, something has to be done about how my life was going, until one day I couldn't ignore it anymore because everything just failed. And what was perfectly timed was that, for many years, I was always driving around rural areas, beautiful parts of the country, and just admiring them and wishing that I lived there. And I've always wanted a plot of land, a piece of nature, except at that time, it just wasn't possible for me to buy a piece. I just couldn't afford it. But it didn't stop me from looking and from sighing and thinking, oh, that's just so beautiful. If only we lived there, And the perfect timing came when I saw a piece of land that just made me feel so comfortable, made me feel like I was home. And I'm quite sure that the spirits of the land and the guardian angels there were welcoming me and encouraging me. And I had the financial resources. So I put down a down payment immediately. The next day I put a down payment, and then I bought the land. And we've been living here, me and my dogs have been living here for quite a number of years. So the point I'm trying to get at is, once you have a desire to awaken, the universe and the angels and whatever you believe in, whatever religion or belief system you have, your spiritual support system will help you, will support you in this awakening journey. There is no doubt about that. And I want you to feel comforted that once you decide to embark on this journey, it's not easy, not going to lie. It's hard, but you will have help. You will have support, either from the universe, from the angels, or from, channels like this. There are many channels on YouTube that can help you along the way. And I'll tell you something really, really beautiful that happens here. When I first moved in, when I first built my house here, I invited people to come and stay. I invited him to come and visit because I was still at a time when I needed company. I was still afraid of this solitude. Well, I am by nature an introvert. So solitude is not that scary for me, but still it was a huge change to my life because I always lived in the city and I had a corporate job and was surrounded by hundreds of people every day, and to come here all by myself with no neighbors. At the beginning, my nearest neighbor was 2 kilometers away. And at night, it was just pitch dark. It was black as ink. But I didn't really feel that lonely because I'd felt lonely my whole life, whether I was surrounded by thousands of people or not. Still, I invited certain people to come and visit. And I noticed there was a pattern that the people that I now know were bad for me, the people that never supported me but just wanted to belittle me and to hit me at my lowest point, when they were here, there was absolutely no wind. It was hot as hell, and the insects were buzzing around us. It was just incredibly unpleasant. And it always baffled me because I tell them, especially my members of my family, where I was seeking approval my entire life. And this was another opportunity for me to say, look, look what I've done for us. You can come and stay here. And I even built a ramp for the house for wheelchair accessibility, for aged parents. Part of it was because I really wanted them to be comfortable, and partly because I was still seeking their approval. But obviously, I never got it. I was belittled further. And then the universe helped me by making it so unpleasant that they hated it. They were complaining the whole time. And there were other people that this happened to as well, not just once or twice, but many, many times. And I finally saw a pattern. And when, kind-hearted, compassionate people who truly loved me and supported me came, you know where I'm heading, right? It was so gorgeous. The weather was cool. It was breezy. And at night, the sky was so clear that we could see thousands and thousands, millions of stars. The next morning, the sunrise would be the most beautiful anyone has ever seen. And then there would be a layer of mist at the bottom, and mist over the mountain range. The light playing on the curves of the mountains just made it so rich and layered and so incredibly beautiful that my guests were mesmerized. They would just sit on the deck and just stare at the scenery until evening, where the most stunning sunset would come and visit us. And they seemed to say, look at me, look at me. These views just want to be looked at, to be admired, and to be loved by the right people. And soon I experienced so many synchronicities, like numbers, not just numbers, but I'll tell you something really cute. I have a cover for my dog's swimming pool, right? And one day when I lifted the cover, there was a little strand of grass that made the shape of a number 4. Now, 4 has always visited me. It was either 444 or just 44. And it was always like maybe the battery of my laptop or the time, 444, 1111, and mirrored numbers like 2112, 1221, 1313, that sort of thing happened very often. And once I was playing some music. That music was from The Shape of Water. I can't remember. Oh, Alyssa's Dream or Elisa's Dream or something like that. And it sounds really magical. I was listening to it and looking out to the view, and suddenly, all of a sudden, a huge swarm of swallows came into view, and they started playing around, and they were doing all sorts of acrobatic moves, in time to the music. And when I got up to check, the timestamp was 4:44. It was at that point where the most magical part of the music came up. These birds came in and did their beautiful dance. When the music ended, they just disappeared just like that. It was just, it's quite unbelievable. But those are one of the many synchronicities that I experienced in this very solo journey of isolation and of solitude. That is when the universe supports us in these little subtle ways. So what I'm trying to say is that no matter how hopeless it seems, no matter how desperately painful the journey is, all you have to do is try not to resist it, try to surrender to it, to give in to the pain, and the universe will come in to support you, because it can't do that otherwise. If you're resisting it, the universe cannot help us. You know, this morning I was feeding breakfast to my dogs, and one of them is quite picky with his food, so he always leaves a few grains behind, and I would then have to coax him and cajole him because there's supplements in there as well. So obviously I want him to finish his food. So I'll pick up the bowl and I'll tell him to, come on, just one more bite. What came to my mind was when I was a very young child, I was made to finish my food. And yes, I agree that we should finish our food and not waste it. But because I was small and I didn't know how to gauge how much food to put on my plate, it was always too much. And I always left a lot of food behind. And I was made to sit there until I finished my food. Sometimes my lunch lasted until 4 p.m. And I would be crying and choking. And my nanny at that time would sit with me and tell me, if you don't finish this vegetable, it'll cry. Look at these grains of rice. If you don't eat them, they'll be very sad. And that's what I told my dog. I said, just finish this, just one more mouthful, because the pumpkin will cry, the broccoli will cry. And I might be imagining it, but he does finish his food when I tell him that. He seems to understand. It's not the words that he understands, it's the feeling of that love. When you are encouraging someone to do something, when you do it with love, it doesn't really matter what you say. I could have said, "Oh, the sky is blue today," but with the same feeling, he would still have finished his food. I know I'm veering off topic, but it's now that this has popped up in my mind. What I want to say is, when you're going through this dark night of the soul, or a very painful period of your life, it really helps to think back of these seemingly insignificant, kind gestures. It really does help us go through another hour or another day. And this journey is like that. It's hard, but there are either memories or incidents where people say something or do something kind, and that just keeps you afloat for another day. So try to think of these incidents. I'm sure they would never ever leave you, because they're there with you, supporting you, cheering you on. Don't overthink it. Yeah? I mean, sometimes when we're so sad that we tend to judge it. Like, for example, this person was so nice to me. Why can't so-and-so be nice to me? Why can't my own family be like this? Then it takes you away from the purity of that kind, loving gesture. So when you think about it, just feel it. Feel the love and don't judge it. Don't overthink it. Don't wish that other people can be like that. Other people are not like that. And it helps tremendously if we could just focus on that kind gesture by itself in all its purity, without tainting it with hopes and wishes that other people can be like that. There are cruel people on this earth, the mentally deranged, people with no empathy, and it's time to not give them any oxygen, not give them any bandwidth, okay? Stop it, and then I go focus on something that is nice. And I know this sounds like a cliche, but it really does work, and it takes practice. The more you do it, the more you can sustain it. So I wish you all the best in this journey, and sending you all my love.